Hi, I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design. Now, previously I did a video showing a portion of my Godzilla pitch that I did for IDW's Godzilla comics called Godzilla Quest. Ultimately, this pitch was rejected by Toho, and so the comic never came to be. Now, what I showed you was just a fraction of the work that I had done on this pitch. And so today I'm going to show you the other 300 some pages. If I'm feeling inspired, I'll go all out on a project, whether it's been approved or not. I enjoy the work itself, and I feel like there's no such thing as wasted effort in an art form. You still end up creating something, even if it's not a printed comic book. And then just the act of creation, I'm honing my skills. I'm getting better at what I do. It's like a master swordsman, keeps his sword sharp, keeps his sword fighting skills sharp, even if he's not, actively involved in a battle. So I keep my pencil sharp. I keep my mind sharp. And so, I get to share some of this with you right now. So this is one of the cover concepts, and straight on view of Godzilla, and I colored it magenta because I thought that would be sort of eye-popping, and it's just sort of a different way of presenting Godzilla. Godzilla is usually depicted as black or gray or, some shade of green. I felt like magenta was something new. And then here's another cover concept, the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns pose, which Ed Piskor appropriated for the variant cover for Fantastic Four Grand Design, and I really liked it. And the funny thing is that Frank Miller pose, it looks like the body type and the pose is so not Batman, but it's so appropriate for so many other characters. So Ed took that pose and applied it to the Thing, where that pose just fits so much better. And then here I'm applying it to Godzilla, who also is sort of a closer physical match for that drawing than any sort of traditional depiction of Batman, which is part of Frank Miller's genius and why that series was so groundbreaking. The fact that he was willing and able to challenge any and all preconceptions about that well-worn character. At the dawn of time, before the coming of man, Godzilla lived in harmony with the creatures of the earth. And then this is, a double-page splash, more of a test than anything else of, trying to fit as many opponents as possible. And I always like the strategy of doing a double-page splash and then having like a thin, series of panels at the bottom, so you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. Have the big double-page splash image and also, have more than just one panel. You can get a little storytelling done. One time, a bunch of wizards got together and stopped him, a gathering of great heroes from the four corners of the earth. And one of the characters I came up with was a character called Raijin. In the previous episode, I showed a character Manzilla, which was sort of, I was trying to create sort of, human characters that could be, more sort of closely involved in sort of the action adventure aspects and almost like superheroes, kind of making like an Avengers or a Justice League, human beings that could sort of hold their own the same way that the G.I. Joe team were able to hold their own against the Transformers. So Raijin was one of them. They were all original creations on my part, and that ended up being the sticking point for Toho with Manzilla. They didn't want Manzilla in there, and so they just rejected the whole project rather than asking me to make a revision, which I would have been happy to do. Which is sort of why I put Manzilla in the pitch there, was just to let them know right off the bat that okay, I'm thinking of doing this. So thumbs up or thumbs down at this early stage, and then I can adjust accordingly. didn't quite work out that way. So I think I also showed this in the previous one. Submarines going down. There's Godzilla's last resting place. And then this is a new panel that wasn't in the previous one. Some garbage comes down, some waste, and Godzilla's eye opens and he starts swimming up to the surface. And then we get this scene, which I'd showed in the previous video. Oh my God, it's... And so here's some panels of Godzilla rampaging. It didn't work. It's your fault. You blew it. Again, I kind of X'd out this verbiage because I kind of like the idea of just sort of letting Godzilla sort of silently rampage. Okay, so now this would be issue 3. I think what I showed before was like issues 1 and 2. This would be issue 3 of, like a 20-some page per issue comic. And here we have, Channel 4 footage of Godzilla. Could you put on the closed captions, son? Your mother can't hear. I can hear just fine. You're the one who refused to get a hearing aid. Do you think we should move, honey? Your wife has a point, son. All this stuff's happening nowhere near here. It's not our problem. This is why we pay taxes. So I sort of had this idea of Godzilla as being sort of like somebody else's problem, where you could imagine somebody watching footage of Godzilla on TV and just being like, Godzilla's never, he's not coming here. Calm down, everybody. Don't get all in an uproar. Godzilla's somebody else's problem. It's something that happens on the other side of the world, and it's not coming here. And so you don't have to deal with it. You can kind of put it out of your mind. They're living with his father and mother live with them in their house. Your mother and I made a beautiful breakfast. Sorry, Dad, it looks great, but I'm late. And then a kiss, goodbye. I'm worried, Gary. About the news, you'll be safe. Stuff like that never happens in the suburbs. Text me when you get there. If I remember. And again, utilizing the idea of putting the text in the bottom, the word balloons and things in the bottom, almost like subtitles. And so Gary is, in the downtown area, and then everybody's cell phones start going off, and he looks at his, and he sees some Godzilla news, and Godzilla is on a rampage. There he is looking in somebody's window. We cut to Gary walking home, and, just through rubble and wreckage and fire, walking home. When he gets to his house, we see that same sort of house-shaped mailbox, which I was always fascinated with whenever you'd see somebody who has like a house-shaped mailbox, especially if it was modeled after like the house they live in. And so he's home, but his home is wrecked. And so everything he said about how, we don't have to worry about Godzilla, it's something going on the other side of the world. And we live in the suburbs, so you definitely, Godzilla never attacks the suburbs. Come on, what are the chances? You'll be fine. And he finds that, his house is a rubble. His house where his wife and his mom and his dad all live is a rubble. And so, line for volunteers. We need help. The patient's having a bad reaction. Not another one. So everybody's lined up to volunteer at this place. Make it stop. Make it stop. And so he sees through a little crack in the door, some horrible body horror thing going on. Gary Brand, you're next. You understand the risk involved. Godzilla killed my family. Let's do this. It's your final booster. And so then they inject him with the Godzilla serum. And I showed a version of this in the previous video. This is a little different. A couple extra beats. These beats of his face going through the transformation. And then now there's a guy at his computer with a glass of Godzilla, the Godzilla Cola. Find Mechagodzilla. Find Mothra. Find Mothra twins. Control her. If you find one piece, it will lead you to the other piece. Weekend tip. The circus is in town. Check it out. The circus. So there's those kids again, the sort of Godzilla scouts who are, checking out the Godzilla message boards looking for clues. So the circus. And then here's kind of like the Fountainhead kind of character, the Ayn Rand thing. It's a triumph. I dreamt it and built it. Against the advice of others, it stands as a towering celebration of the will of the individual. And then here comes Godzilla to wreck it. And then here we are at the circus. Step right up and see that giant hand that was wrapped around the throat of Godzilla. This is gonna be good. A giant dismembered hand. Voila, it's sort of a circus sideshow. And the hand is this giant metal hand. Whoa! It's Mechagodzilla! He battled Godzilla to a standstill, almost killed him. Agent has been looking for Mechagodzilla for years. It's the ultimate anti-G weapon. Hey kid, get off of there. Come on, guys. Get off of there. And they knock over the Mechagodzilla hand. There should be a button. Missed me. Now I've got you. There. Whoa. Come back with my hand. And so they press a button that activates this little rocket on the back of the Mechagodzilla hand, and they ride it out of the circus. Look out! Something big's been picked up on sonar. Godzilla? We don't know that yet, so keep it holstered. Something emerges from the ocean, some kind of muck monster. Who is that? And then it shakes, shake. Visual confirmation. It's Godzilla, all right. It was Godzilla the whole time. This is a comic I'm making in preparation for making the final Godzilla comic and the final Godzilla story. So I'm just testing a bunch of things, seeing what works and letting it develop. So then, when Toho, says, okay, you got the thumbs up, go ahead. Then I can sit down and start working on the final story and have my mind sort of, fully prepared for it and nimble and able to, understand the story from start to finish and figure it out and figure out the best way to tell it and what to keep in, what to take out, and maybe even, how to tell a completely different story than all of this preparation was, because that can be another way that the preparation works for you. You sort of get the story that isn't going to be the story out of the way so you can tell the real story. The creative process is a mysterious and beautiful thing. I try to engage with it from every possible direction. So we got some planes attacking Godzilla. And then I like this idea of, sort of Godzilla being such a part of like the popular culture of this, fictional Godzilla world, even more so than he is in the world we live in. And this fascination with Godzilla so that, some people sort of paint their planes with Godzilla colors and with Godzilla teeth in the front, the way like World War II planes would be painted with shark's teeth in the front. In Godzilla we trust. Godzilla is our friend. No fear. So this is like a pro-Godzilla protest. There's the big G on the cross. And yeah, just some more Godzilla. Like in this story, it's a Godzilla story. There's going to be a lot of Godzilla rampaging. So I was just trying to think of every possible way you can show Godzilla rampaging and trying to come up with original, different ways that we've never really seen before in comics or in the movies. And so I also had this idea of these like sort of tall, thin panels, the sort of what I think of as like the Frank Miller Daredevil storytelling strategy, where you have a tall, thin panel on the left, and then you have a stack of panels telling the story. So here it's like, I figured out the tall, thin panel, and then at a future date, I'll figure out the stack. Same here. And here. But you get a nice, cool kind of progression going on, a nice rhythm. And then another Frank Miller strategy where you have a bunch of tall, thin panels stacked next to each other. Godzilla getting closer and closer and closer till he fills the frame. And then Godzilla doing his Samson thing where he's between two buildings and pushes them apart. A plane flies by and then it starts shaking because Godzilla's grabbed it. Godzilla takes the plane and then throws it like a paper airplane, throws it at the ground. This is your big moment, Gary. I know Serizawa, but who are these two? Two heroes who made you possible. They brought back the relic, a piece of Godzilla. So there's the two. There's the two agents from the previous issue who apparently died, or maybe are missing in action from that previous mission we saw where Godzilla escapes from his from that sort of Godzilla cage Godzilla's headed for the orphanage. From that, we were able to make the formula for you. And then there's Bikezilla. And so here's Godzilla, again, continuing his rampage. I sort of had this idea of like Godzilla breathing fire into the front door of a building, and then it sort of starts spilling out from every single window, and people start, jumping out, flying out of the windows, from the heat. This was another cover idea, but I sort of just threw it into the mix of this, big, story I'm trying to put together. And so here he is on the Zilla cycle, on the Godzilla cycle. Here he is. And Godzilla turns around and he flips his sunglasses up, and Godzilla's getting his fire ready and breathes the fire and burns away this guy's riding outfit, and then he throws off his helmet, and underneath we see it's Manzilla. So this third issue, it's the one where we get the story of Manzilla. That's where Manzilla enters the story. And in the previous episode, I sort of showed, like the where he gets the Godzilla serum, and then he turns into Manzilla like one page later. But then when I was doing this part, I was like, you know what? I think it would be good to do the Manzilla serum scene and then not show him like fully revealed as Manzilla, kind of save it and only reveal it here. So that's what I'm doing here. And then he rides his motorcycle up Godzilla's tail, kind of weaves in and out through Godzilla's back spines. And then Godzilla turns his head around and then, breathes his atomic breath, blows him back, destroys his Godzilla cycle, but he's still hanging on, using Godzilla's scale as a shield. And then he jumps. He has his Godzilla tooth ready to go. Payback's a bitch. And then injury to the eye, a comics classic. One of the reasons they invented the comics code was to prevent people from making comics that have an injury to the eye in them. So he stabs Godzilla right in the eye. Godzilla sort of smacks him, and then he's hanging on by the bottom of Godzilla's lips. Godzilla's opened his mouth, and you know what's coming. The breath. But somehow he jumped to the top of Godzilla's head. Now Godzilla, kind of claps his hands together to catch him, has him in his hands, then he stabs Godzilla in the thumb. Then he's hanging on, and then Godzilla kind of smashes him against the ground. We cut away to this little, pink dollhouse. These two guys, they open it up. They're wearing the yellow uniform of agent. And inside the dollhouse, hello, who are you? I don't know what happened to her. We had a falling out over a man. It's one of the twins, one of the twins from the Mothra movies. And so we see the outline of, her now missing twin. So again, I was trying to, figure out what the story was going to be. And I thought like, maybe it's like, okay, they have one of the Mothra girls. I guess they're supposed to be like fairies or something. They have one of them and they need to find the other one, who's missing. And then once they have the two of them, then they'll be able to control Mothra and use Mothra to fight Godzilla. And so now enter Jet Jaguar. Manzilla is having a rough time against Godzilla, but Jet Jaguar shows up. Punch! And Godzilla goes rolling down the hill into the water. Nice job. So what's your deal? Are you a robot or what? That's a rude question. I could ask you if you're a man or a Zilla. A hero is entitled to some privacy. I'm here to help, and that's all that matters. So we doing this, big man? So yeah, like I kind of wanted to make Godzilla into like a little more of like a superhero story. So to have like some superheroes who can fight Godzilla. And then, in my generosity, they'd become part of the Toho-verse. I'd happily sign them over to Toho to use as they please. Obviously I didn't invent Jet Jaguar, but Manzilla. And so, they jump down into the water, they swim, and they see Godzilla swimming ahead of them. Then Godzilla turns around, breathes his atomic breath on them, and then they sort of float to the top of the water and are lifted out by cranes from boats. And then this is the entrance of another character who would be almost kind of like the Thor of the sort of Godzilla Avengers. The name I had for him was Raijin, and I'd have him sort of like associated with King Caesar. He's kind of like the way Manzilla is sort of like an embodiment of God's is like a human embodiment of Godzilla. Ray Jin would be, like kind of like the human counterpart to King Caesar. Join us. So they come to Raijin at the top of a mountain, asking him to join. And so now we see a thing of like, again, I'm just coming up with like different sequences for Godzilla rampages. So a train coming out of a tunnel and right into Godzilla's mouth. I have a note to myself, find the actual words to the Mothra song and kind of put them in there. Mothra, 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 Mothra. And like her singing becomes more and more intense. And I guess they haven't found her twin yet, so they're using 2 megaphones to kind of double the song so that maybe it'll work and attract Mothra. And here we have Godzilla finds a Mothra egg, and he starts to eat it, and enraged buzzing. And here, Mothra is coming to get Godzilla, and he starts flapping his wings. I always love that in the Godzilla movies, how, Rodan, Mothra, whoever, if a character has like big, powerful wings, then they use them to create these like gale force winds. And so Mothra's using that against Godzilla. He's starting to blow away. And then this was sort of an idea I had of like Godzilla kind of ending up on top of one of those reclining Buddhas. And Mothra slices him with one of her sharp wings, slices him again. Then Godzilla grabs her and he rips off one of her wings and then roasts her with his atomic breath. And so I also had this kind of subplot of like Manzilla looking for his family, that he's holding out some hope that they are still alive, that they didn't die in the Godzilla attack. And so he finds his dad at a Godzilla relocation camp, a camp where the government sends people whose houses were destroyed by Godzilla. And it's kind of like, okay, is this a refugee camp or is this some kind of prison? What kind of, what's going on here? Kind of. And so he's in one of these sort of FEMA trailers. His father's in one of these FEMA trailers. Son, your wife is alive. So's mine, as a matter of fact. That would be Manzilla's mother. What? Rose and Mom are alive? As far as I know. Last thing I saw before I passed out, they were airlifted out of there, but there's no record of them here. That must mean... No. What? They must be in one of those for-profit Godzilla displacement camps. You mean like this? No, way worse. These FEMA trailers are luxurious by comparison. I've seen those for-profit places. It's a national disgrace, more like a prison. Cages and foil blankets for victims of Godzilla. But don't worry, Dad. I'm gonna bust them out. And then, Manzilla is trying to keep himself sort of hidden from his father. And his father wants to see him, wants to, give him a hug. And he's like, you wouldn't like what you'd see. Says you. And then he opens the door, and then son and father. How could a father not know his son? And they hug each other, even though his son has been transformed into this man monster. Come with me, Dad. Help me bust out Rose and Mom. I'll be okay. Come back for me when you're done. I'll be here waiting for you. As long as I've got my Judge Judy. Whoa, kids, what are you doing? How did you get this? We traded for it. So they show up at Agent Base with Mechagodzilla's hand. We traded for it. We left an IOU. And so there's the circus guy saying some expletives when he looks at the IOU. It's Mechagodzilla, a piece of him. I don't approve of your methods, but this could be our key to finding Mechagodzilla. Operation Mechagodzilla. So that was going to be one of the elements of this sort of Godzilla quest, that there'd be this quest looking for the pieces of Mechagodzilla so they could build Mechagodzilla and then remote control it to defeat Godzilla. So here, Manzilla is skulking around this for-profit Godzilla relocation center, and it's staffed by mercenaries. And then Manzilla kind of sneaks up behind these guys and sticks his claws through them. You like that? Then he puts on one of their uniforms. And then he gets confronted by Meet Dogzilla. They always experiment on animals first. So this is me kind of borrowing a little page from Alan Moore's Miracle Man. They tested the Godzilla serum that turned him into Manzilla. They tested it on dogs first and created these Dogzillas, kind of like the Hulk dogs in the Hulk movie. I could sound the alarm, but then they'd make me stop these dogs from tearing you apart. And so then he deals with that situation, and then, don't be scared. I'm here to help. And he flexes his muscles, and because they're scared of the inmates of this Godzilla relocation camp are scared of the mercenaries who work as guards there. But he says, don't be scared. I'm here to help. Stand back. And then he flexes his muscles, and the uniform rips off, and then he rips it open. Mom, where are your glasses? Gary? Where's Rose? I don't know. They split us up. I have a bad feeling. Bad things happen here. They don't treat us like people in here. They treat us like property. I'd check the captain's quarters. I'll be back, Mom. Oh, baby boy, what did these monsters do to you? Please, just let me go. I have rights. Dance for us. No, please, I didn't do anything. I'm sure you did something. And then the walls of this room rip apart with these fingers, and boom, it's Manzilla, and this is his wife Rose, and he rips the guys apart. Then they look at each other, and they hold each other and kiss, and they smile. She accepts him as her husband. She's not scared. She knows him. That could only be her Gary, even though he's Manzilla now. You see a sniper's rifle takes him out, shoots Manzilla through the heart. In the back. You cowards shot him in the back. I was a shitty husband. I tried, but you're better off. Godzilla Man or Godzilla Samurai. So I was just trying to think of other, different spins on it. So Godzilla Rai, a sort of Godzilla Samurai wearing, and different stories I could tell in different eras. So yeah, Samurai with armor inspired by Godzilla, and then sort of like almost kind of like a more traditional Godzilla superhero costume, maybe like in the 50s or 60s or something. There's like a, Godzilla themed superhero. Here's another cover, which could also, end up working its way into the story. Flashback to, or a painting of a samurai army off to fight Godzilla, or maybe part of Godzilla's army. The Godzilla symbol. A guy with Godzilla and Anguirus puppets. Again, just trying to approach this from every imaginable angle and just seeing if there's, something, seeing what I can find. And then this was just kind of an idea I had of sort of, playing with, transparency and reflection and shadows as Godzilla's, going through the city, the reflective, and sometimes transparent surfaces of buildings, and different ways of, moving Godzilla through panels in a double-page spread. An anti-Godzilla exosuit. Godzilla in the goggles, in the binoculars, and they're shooting at Godzilla, shooting him with a flamethrower. This part was a sequence that I was working on. It was like Godzilla in Paris, and what they decided to do was booby-trap Paris. Turn Paris into one giant Godzilla trap. Just attract him to Paris and have every single part of Paris, wired for traps. So they have the Arc de Triomphe. He gets his foot caught in it, and then these little spears come down. And then Jet Jaguar says, spin it. And then the Arc de Triomphe starts spinning, and it starts spinning Godzilla around. And then the Seine River has been replaced. They took the water out and replaced it with rocket fuel. And then Manzilla's like, light it up. And so he breathes his atomic breath into the Seine, and this agent flamethrower crew blows flame into it, and we've replaced the Seine with rocket fuel, and Godzilla's caught in it. You're gonna die in Paris. There's worse ways to go. And now Godzilla's just completely aflame. Oh my God, we made it worse. And then there's the Eiffel Tower. He's marching towards it. It's all wired and ready to go. He's chewing on the Eiffel Tower. It's all wired and ready to go. Give it the juice. And so Ray-Jin, who is going to have sort of like thunder and lightning powers, again, kind of like the Thor of the group, he gives it a jolt of power that starts the whole process and taps into the entire grid, the power grid, and Godzilla's getting electroshocked, and we see the city of Paris, the lights go out, but Godzilla's okay. Monster Island. So we got some guys in a boat, some agents on a mission in Monster Island. Oh, fuck. I am Serizawa. I had this idea of like an I Am Spartacus kind of scene where everybody's wearing Serizawa eye patches and just more stuff of Godzilla on the go, different ways of doing it. I had this idea of Godzilla casting his shadow and playing around with that. Oh yeah, I had this idea of like when his atomic breath is charging up to have this sort of like atomic symbol inside his mouth, and then we are 117 pages into this 312-page document. So here's some agent trucks carrying Mothra eggs, and they're driving, and it's like, uh-oh, you better drive carefully. This egg's starting to crack, and then it breaks open, and it's one of the Mothra larvae, which are pretty cool. Yeah, he gets plucked out of the car, out of the truck, and thrown into the air, and he's up in a tree. Have a mix of horror, adventure, and comedy, just like the movies themselves. And then the other truck goes over a bump and it smashes the egg. Now they got 2 Mothra larvae, and they're just spraying their sort of Spider-Man spray that they spray in the movies. And these guys are getting out of the cars, and one of them has the dollhouse, and inside the dollhouse is one of the Mothra twins, and she's singing Mothra. And then the other twin is parachuting down from an airplane. It's a surprise. They finally tracked her down. The twins are going to be reunited. She parachutes down onto the top of the dollhouse. And then I have a note to myself. Come up with some good dialogue, maybe. Good to see you. Now let's do this. Mothra. The Mothra larvae are under their control. Mothra. They're listening to you. Mothra. They're following us. This just might work. I'm just playing around with some more ideas for like possible ways of using Mothra's eggs and Mothra's larvae. And so the eggs break and they're advancing on Godzilla. Godzilla roasts them with his fire, and then they get these like cocoons around them, which allow them to be reborn as new, fully grown Mothras. And maybe tinker with the note to myself, tinker with the design, maybe come up with a new look for Mothra, for this sort of new generation of Mothras. And then, yeah, this idea of like Mothra's wing being sort of translucent and seeing Godzilla through it. He grabs the wings. Mothra lifts him off the ground, starts choking him. His arms kind of caught in the Mothra wings. He's being flown. Here, kitty, come on. You need to get out of here. He's coming. Oh. So somebody trying, some more like pathos, somebody trying to save their cat from Godzilla. And then this idea of maybe like Godzilla knocks over the panels the way he knocks over a building. Uh-oh, flying baby Godzillas. Just trying to come up with crazy ideas. And then this idea of sort of like a tsunami causing a flood and just making all the cars kind of wash away. Again, like every day, if I felt like working on the Godzilla thing, I'd just kind of, play around with the concept and see what comes out. And at this point, I think I was just trying to figure out sequences for like every imaginable kaiju, every possible monster that could show up in a Godzilla story, and just to kind of get some practice drawing them and kind of figure them out. And maybe that'll suggest story ideas. So wanted to do a picture of Godzilla fighting Varan, Godzilla fighting Space Godzilla, Godzilla fighting Titanosaurus, Godzilla fighting Batra. It's Godzilla World Tour. Godzilla versus Biollante. Biollante getting a nice bite out of Godzilla. Godzilla versus the classic Mothra. Playing around with like cool wrestling moves for him to do. Godzilla versus Orga. Monster X. It was fun drawing these Godzilla characters that I wasn't as familiar with as the sort of older ones. Mechagodzilla. Muto. And then like just kind of, felt like a sort of alien kind of thing would work there. Baragon. Mechagodzilla. Oh, and I forget his name. He's a Gorosaurus. Maybe the bad guys have their little army of monster people that they drop out of their sort of, hovercraft or whatever. Godzilla versus Rodan. Come on, how fun is this? So yeah, that strategy I was talking about earlier, that sort of Frank Miller Daredevil strategy, long tall panel on the left, and then it just flows really nicely. And there he is fighting Rodan. They tussle, and then Rodan grabs him and then sort of flies away with him and then drops him onto some stalagmites. And Godzilla's there like he's on a bed of nails or something. This was one of the first Rodan sequences I drew. And so this idea of like these guys trying to like ride on Rodan, kind of pilot him, these agents, they kind of like strap themselves to him, and then he jumps down and they're like, and it looks like they're going to crash into the stalagmites, and then he swoops up. And then, here's Godzilla just fighting a gang of guys, going through them, eviscerating one of them in this final panel. Just more fights, just coming up with like cool fight sequences. Like the kind of stuff you wouldn't normally see in a Godzilla comic, but like, why not? Like, let's go for it. Some cool, monster on monster action, just kind of fun flowing comics. Again, like I said, this project got rejected, but I had so much fun working on it, and I had to do something during the pandemic, and this was one of the things I did to kind of keep myself engaged. Hopefully, maybe I'll get my chance to do a Godzilla project, or maybe I was just sort of sharpening my skills that I can maybe apply to something else. Or maybe I just had a good time working on this, and that's going to be enough. More just these Godzilla fight sequences. They were really fun to work on. Yeah, this was just sort of like the classic thing you see in comics, going back to Jack Kirby, where somebody, character like Captain America or somebody gets piled on, and then it's looking bad, and then he kind of, flexes his arms out and everybody goes flying. A kinship. There's a moment where Godzilla and Manzilla kind of recognize a common bond. Like that scene where Manzilla gets shot through the heart. This would be sort of the follow-up to it. He's at the morgue. And then we got like a Dark Knight Returns kind of thing of Godzilla walking through the city. And then he's put in the drawer. Frank Miller on the brain, probably thinking of Elektra Lives Again with all the scenes in the morgue. Manzilla's corpse sits up, and he's okay. He's alive. What kind of powers does Godzilla have? Atomic breath. So he could have any of those. Healing factor. I guess this is, the idea that he's got all the same powers Godzilla has, and so Godzilla seems to have a healing factor, so why not Manzilla? So that's why he's okay, even though he got shot through the heart. We've created a Godzilla poison, and you're the delivery system. We thought he would have eaten you by now. Sorry. So, yeah, Godzilla eats you. The poison, which is embedded in every cell of your body, kills him. It's only toxic to two creatures on Earth, you and Godzilla. It's killing you. But we feel real bad about all of it. We're giving you this antidote. You'll be cured of being Manzilla, the poison, everything. You'll be okay. And so then Manzilla has to decide, do I sacrifice myself for the greater good or cure myself and let everybody else take their chances? And now they're putting Mechagodzilla together. They've found all the pieces, and Godzilla is laying, and he begins to awaken. It's like the Da Vinci Code. We're piecing together the clues in Godzilla lore that has been hiding in plain sight. Are you telling me Godzilla was at the Last Supper? And then a little drawing of Godzilla at the Last Supper. Godzilla, King of Heaven. Godzilla embryo, like a mummy Godzilla. A little tribute to Avengers #5, the cover of Avengers #5. Godzilla has his Avengers too. And then Godzilla is the green reclaiming Earth from the city. Interesting. These are those guys. There were those giant bugs in Destroy All Monsters, and I think they were like the ones they were like poking at baby Godzilla. And so here they bite Godzilla in the arm, and then the arm starts to form a giant boil, and then Godzilla scratches it, bites it, and then it pops with like blood. And then out of that boil, from that bite, is born Manila, the mini Godzilla. Jumps on Godzilla's arm and I guess suckles the blood for his nourishment. Mazers, a mini mazer in a pickup truck. A bad guy, a comic artist. I got this design from one of the, I think Godzilla versus Ghidorah is the one where there's a comic book artist in it. I grew up in his footprint, this idea of somebody who has a house that's inside of a Godzilla footprint. The Gigan Summoner, found in the earth. Goldzilla. Again, I'm throwing everything out there, just seeing what it's like. Goldzilla. Moby Dick versus Godzilla. Godzilla coming out of the ocean. Godzilla on fire. Godzilla in a graveyard. Godzilla, through the dashboard of a taxi driver, seeing Robert De Niro as taxi driver meets Godzilla. This is a Miller thing. This is when Batman gets shot and starts falling. And then this is the Bat from Dark Knight Returns. Okay, so this idea, she climbs up this ladder, is holding on to a fence. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And Godzilla approaches. So it was this sort of, and then, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This sort of idea of like people who would have sort of like an erotic connection to Godzilla, that they'd sort of like, they'd try to like get close to Godzilla for some sort of, sexual rush. And so that's what she's doing. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And Godzilla's getting real close. And you're like, what's going to happen? He just starts walking past. So she's okay, and she's all out of breath from her near encounter with Godzilla. A-haul, that's agents sort of hauling trucks. And in each truck is one hand of Mechagodzilla, and the hands kind of like crawl sort of spider style, and then they're standing up on their fingers, and then they pop into the rest of the Mechagodzilla body. Now we're sort of seeing Godzilla through a cockpit, and now Godzilla's fighting Mechagodzilla, and the planes are flying in the head, the last piece of Mechagodzilla. And now it's on, like Donkey Kong. Mechagodzilla turns his head, starts launching finger missiles at Godzilla, smacks him with his tail. Yeah, it's on. And then Godzilla balls himself up and starts rolling around. Had to work a fan boat into the action. Godzilla's face gets scratched and reveals, this double-page splash of Godzilla versus fan boats, hovercrafts, hydrofoils. It's Godzilla in the bayou. It wasn't an iceberg that sank the Titanic. This is more of that sort of Da Vinci Code stuff. It wasn't a whale that swallowed Jonah. It wasn't a flood that sank Atlantis. It wasn't a volcano that buried Pompeii. It wasn't a meteor that killed the dinosaurs. It was Godzilla. And then here's Godzilla eating the dinosaurs. You got to meet a living dinosaur. How many other paleontologists can claim that? Godzilla versus dinosaur skeletons or kaiju skeletons. And then, some battle from Godzilla's POV, fighting a bug and ripping off its arms. Godzilla slicing the pyramids and the Sphinx in half. Godzilla walking into the water. To Atlantis. The wizards from the beginning of the story. These are the wizards that we saw at the beginning of the story, and they live in this underwater new Atlantis. Shields holding. And then Godzilla's smacking it with his tail, and then his foot cracks the glass. And then Manda is there to defend Atlantis. Again, this would have been the greatest Godzilla comic ever made, had Toho approved it. But maybe it still is the greatest Godzilla comic ever made. If it just exists as a digital comic on my iPad, maybe that's enough for something to be the greatest comic of all time. Maybe it doesn't need to be in print. Maybe it doesn't need to be thousands of copies. Maybe it can be one digital copy. And then, yeah, Godzilla's POV, because it's Godzilla Quest, and it's like this quest to find the sort of artifacts and things you can use to fight Godzilla and the lore to learn how to defeat him. But maybe Godzilla himself goes on a quest. There's some crystals or something that are attracting him, and he fights this crabby thing, this lobster. Godzilla knocking Statue of Liberty's head off. Oh, I like this point of view of Godzilla's back spines, and then he bites a chunk out of a boat. Again, Godzilla versus Whalezilla. Oh, and then Godzilla finds these crystals that he's looking for, and he starts chewing on them, and they give him this magnetic power, and magnets start attracting to him. I think I got it from one of the Godzilla movies, but yeah, here he is. Oh, here he is trailing Jet Jaguar and Manzilla. Giant plants. Arctic Godzilla versus Abominable. I don't know if Abominable is a Toho character or if I invented that for this. There's the Northern Lights. Oh, there's those guys who would poke at baby Godzilla. There's baby Godzilla riding on Godzilla's back, riding on his tail. Oh, this would be Godzilla in Philly. And there's Pat's steaks and Gino's steaks. He's going for Pat's. No, he's going for Gino's. And then he picks up both of the steak places and eats both of them. Godzilla going down some kind of like well or something, some catacombs or something, and spider webs everywhere, and gets caught in some spider webs. Kumonga. Yeah, I love Kumonga. Godzilla is the greatest word in the English language. The only other word that comes close is Frankenstein. God should change his name to Godzilla, or her name. And I believe that. Those are my actual words. Godzilla versus religion. Godzilla versus hell. Oh, and have these crystals be sort of anaglyphic. And yeah, Godzilla eats it and then starts shooting purple lasers out of his spine. Power up. Godzilla gets a power up and can do the thing that he does in Shin Godzilla. Oh, this is a Godzilla sting. They set up a trap for Godzilla. Godzilla loves to eat nuclear pollution. He loves to eat radiation, and so he's smoking these smokestacks from this reactor. He's huffing this reactor. It's all set up as a trap for Godzilla. He gets an atomic power up. All these mushroom clouds shooting out of his back. You're busted. It's a sting. And now Godzilla's mutated into Bat Godzilla. He's got these big wings. Flying Godzilla. Godzilladon. Maybe an army of Godzillas. Again, I'm trying to make the ultimate Godzilla comic, so I'm trying to think of every possible angle. I want to think of things nobody's ever thought of before. Yeah, here's Godzilla versus Ghidorah, I think it is. The sort of pollution monster. And then Godzilla gets struck by this big bolt of lightning. And it's Raijin and King Caesar. And they are a formidable pair. And then, the big reveal of Mechagodzilla. And the kids are driving Mechagodzilla. The kids who helped put him back together. And Mechagodzilla shoots that like rainbow fire breath like he does in the movie. And then here's a shot from inside. The eye view is from inside of Godzilla's mouth. And here's the super team of Jet Jaguar, Godzilla, and Raijin, and then the agents of Agent. Yeah, this was going to be the super team, the sort of Avengers or Justice League. It was going to be the GRRRS, the Godzilla Revenge and Rapid Response Squad. Storm God, that would be Raijin. The Zilla Killers is an alternate name for this team. Jet Jaguar, Storm God, Manzilla, Americus and America, Mr. and Mrs. America, the Americans. Raijin, Manzilla, and America and Americus are my contributions here. Jet Jaguar, of course, is, world famous. Missiles away, direct hit. No sign of life. We got him. Wait. Cubezilla, Turtleplex, Godzilla Monster Truck, Hydrofoil for extra speed, Atlantis. Atlantis rises up. We're getting close, folks. Slice, Mothra slicing Godzilla, and then the Mothra larva starts spraying him with webs. Godzilla is laying, turns his head. Mass suicides of people afraid of Godzilla. Labyrinth, they create a maze to trap Godzilla in. Oh, here's a guy with his machine gun shooting Godzilla. Blood, bleeding. Armor. And Manzilla is up in a helicopter. He's looking down at Godzilla. He jumps, hello, and jumps into Godzilla's mouth. Godzilla's jaws are closing on him. Godzilla shuts his mouth. Manzilla's inside his mouth. Godzilla chews, and gulps. So that thing about Manzilla being poisonous to Godzilla, and that, you know, if he chooses, he can sacrifice himself and allow Godzilla to eat him, and he's the delivery system for the Godzilla poison. His whole body is Godzilla poison, and so he's in Godzilla's stomach, and he's being broken down by Godzilla's stomach acids, and Godzilla's getting a bad case of indigestion, and then he gets kicked in the face by King Caesar. Now they're wrestling. Fire trucks refitted with refrigerant, another thing from Shin Godzilla. But we got Jet Jaguar in the mix now, and it's spraying into Godzilla's mouth. Laser scopes on. They're at Hoover Dam. Fire! Godzilla's getting shot like Sonny Corleone. He's defenseless. Stab him with your giant extra-dimensional finger. So this would be the breaking the fourth wall part. So you're reading the comic, and Jet Jaguar's talking to you, and now you're supposed to deliver the killing stroke to Godzilla. Start stabbing him with your magical, with your giant extra-dimensional finger. He's dead. See, he's dead. You did it, I guess. And now, of course, whenever the monster dies, you always feel bad about it, even, no matter who it is. That's part of the genre. And so, the kids piloting Mechagodzilla, they're carrying Godzilla now. And then Jet Jaguar, or one of the supers, has Godzilla's heart. Godzilla's heart. Godzilla's still beating heart. This giant green heart that's spraying blood everywhere. We just gonna leave him like that? We'll send in a cleanup crew. I meant Mechagodzilla. We can't just leave that old soldier out to rust away. He belongs in a museum. Godzilla, though, let him rot. And then somebody takes a running start and kicks one of Godzilla's eyeballs out of the socket. Fuck Godzilla. With no Godzilla to defend it, Earth is ripe for invasion. All these saucers converge. Ghidorah, stored for space travel. So this is the surprise twist that by killing Godzilla, we've actually left Earth defenseless from alien attack. Godzilla's the one thing that kept the aliens from invading, and now he's out of the picture. And so King Ghidorah, the Xylian's Kaiju, has come to attack. Gasp! Godzilla was the only thing stopping us from invading Earth, and you removed him for us. King Ghidorah X thanks you for your help. Oh, so that guy posting on the message boards was the aliens all along. That's right, your guardian angel was me all along. He was the one leaving all the clues. Wait, there's Manzilla, and he's jumping at him. We killed the only creature who could stand up to these guys. Exactly. Thanks for all the help. Your pal, King Ghidorah X. Laughter. We gotta resuscitate Godzilla. And now Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are falling into an abyss from the laser fire of the saucers. Oh no, it just got so much harder. Gotta climb down to find him. Godzilla autopsy, Godzilla burger, Godzilla steaks, Godzilla on ice, hydrofoils. They carry the icy Godzilla. There's King Ghidorah. Mechagodzilla parts are added to Godzilla's heart. It's a transplant. It was a doctor who killed Godzilla. A doctor can save him. And so they set up, electrical resuscitation cables to Godzilla's chest. Jet Jaguar's holding them, and Raijin, the storm god, is sending the electricity through them. Come on, Godzilla, he's not responding. Come on, Godzilla, he's not responding. What are we doing? He's dead, beyond hope. And then his eyes open. And he is reborn, breaks through the ice, climbs up the giant crevasse that he was in as Storm God and Jet Jaguar fly up. He climbs up and bites King Ghidorah on the ankle. And King Ghidorah flies away with him attached. And it's on. They're fighting. Godzilla falls down. Now he's got to fight. Jabs him right in the head. I made Godzilla's head kind of collapse the way his sort of rubber head does sometimes in the movies. And now Godzilla and Manzilla are teamed up to take on the alien kaiju. It's Earth kaiju versus alien kaiju. Ghidorah has two lieutenants, Gigan and Megalon. Godzilla Tower, from that one movie, shoots a laser at Godzilla. Godzilla versus Ghidorah gets tangled up in a bridge. He's fighting Anguirus for some reason. He's grabbing Ghidorah's tail. He's fighting Megalon. There's Megalon and Gigan. Ghidorah's really going at it. One head's biting the top of Godzilla's mouth. The other's biting the lower jaw. The other one's pulling the tongue out. They got Godzilla on the ropes. But look, it's Mechagodzilla with his finger missiles. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, Godzilla. I don't know about this. Godzilla killed my grandma. Then Godzilla's knocking out all the Ghidorah heads, doing a cartwheel. His chest is all stitched up. He's just doing all kinds of great moves. He's rejuvenated. He's got a new lease on life. And look, here's Rodan coming in to help. And we got Mechagodzilla over here. We got Anguirus. Earth Kaiju unite against alien Kaiju. And the Xylians, they know when it's time to get the fuck out of there. So they retreat to their saucer. The saucers start flying away. Godzilla jumps up, grabs the side of a saucer, starts shaking it. The Xylians start pouring out. He's stomping them with his feet. Agents are running into one of the saucers, and they take it over. Let's rev it up. Godzilla's standing on top of it, surfing it like the Silver Surfer. Mechagodzilla's following along, with his power of flight. Follow them. Oh, and then this was a little idea I had. Mechagodzilla, the planet-sized Godzilla. Now back to our story. They're chasing the Xylians past the moon. Now they're going into hyperspace. Godzilla's cheeks are flying and shaking from the high speed. And now they're going through into another universe where the Xylians live. There's their home planet. They follow them down to the planet. Godzilla jumps off the saucer, lands on some buildings, starts blowing fire around, turning Xylians into skeletons. Climbing around, looks through a window. Stomping the opera house. They're inside the city. The Dirtlings and their beast. That's what they call us, Earthlings. They call them Dirtlings because Earth is another name for dirt. We need to evacuate. Then Godzilla has to fight Destroya on this planet, another alien kaiju, the defender of the Xylian homeworld. And yeah, Godzilla's knocking buildings over. He's taking the governing body, stuffing them in his mouth, chewing them up, and then just blowing gouts of fire everywhere. And the red curtain goes down on Godzilla the Musical, this grand pageant that we've been watching. And now, from Godzilla's point of view, or somebody's point of view, we see the return back to Earth. Going to visit your father? Yep. And then my ex. There he is at the grave of his father. And then he gets in his motorcycle wearing his outfit, and he steps up to his old house. And he's about to knock on the door, and, his wife is now remarried. But he changes his mind and turns away and blows her a little green kiss and drives away. Kind of like RoboCop, when his wife sort of moves on with her life after he dies. And then the Zilla cycle rides away. What's going on out there? I don't know. We need Godzilla. And then some saucers coming down. We need Godzilla. The button is pressed. And here's Godzilla living in harmony with mankind. So it's almost like bookends on the story. It began with Godzilla living in a state of nature, and now he's living in a state of nature and harmony with mankind and his own kind. And here he is, ready to fight an alien invasion and do it again and again, because Godzilla is now officially the defender of the Earth. The end. So that's it. There's a couple other odds and ends, some other bits and pieces, but I hope you enjoyed this grand tour of my Godzilla pitch. If you enjoyed it enough, then maybe there's no need for me to ever do an actual Godzilla comic, but you never know. This was a very special project for me, a very important project that I spent a lot of time, energy, and love on, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design, and Godzilla Quest, and I'll see you next time.